Hi, grep here. So now we're going to look into using ZFS on top of iSCSI. And of course the issue is why ZFS, why should we care? Well, basically ZFS has good support for snapshots. It has built-in compression. It has a uniform checksum checking, so basically end-to-end, so on all levels of the system it's always checking checksum, so you can't get even memory resident corruption. And then it supports thin provisioning, and this is another way to say that you allocate 4 terabytes, but it actually on the physical storage media it's only allocating the amount of space that it actually needs to store valid bytes. And then it supports replication, which has a built-in feature. So if you have several ZFS pools, then you can actually replicate between them. And they say that one of the negative things, which is also positive things, that RAM usage can be high, and this is because it does you have a lot of options to tune the caching that ZFS uses to put as much as possible into RAM instead of actually having to go to the hardware. So let's get into it. So anyway, just a quick update on the those that have been following the video series that I've been making, that I had problems with authentication when it came to the iSCSI level, and this virtual machine was using my original solution with only one iSCSI device. And I said in that video that you can use that solution, the one that I had originally, and that works fine. But I've actually, now several days have gone by, I've noticed that this also has this problem with that it loses the authentication. So I also moved on this machine to use the solution that I developed in the previous video, which is this script-based allocation of the authentication for iSCSI. So that's just for the information if you've been following the series. I'll also put it on this virtual machine. So as we see now here, we have this one is the iSCSI storage. If we go to the data center level and we have a look at it, so here it's configured, and then it also says here use LUNs directly, which means that it should use it as a block device. So that's ready. And then the first step here is that we have to figure out that, okay, what disk is this mapped to? And then we use this command to actually identify. So here we see that we have the target name. Oh, it's so long. But anyway, this target long, and then it says that it's LUN 0, which is the only LUN I have defined, and then and then it comes out, and then it maps to SDB. So now we know what device the iSCSI disk is mapped to, or the iSCSI block is mapped to. And then we can take another view. This command, and then we can see the structure, and then we see that it's here STB, and it's a 4 terabyte disk or block. So that looks okay. And then first step to take on the ZFS path is that we need to ensure that the tools are installed. And in this case I've already installed them, but you need this package to be able to use ZFS. And then we need to create a pool. That's that command. As I've done in previous, I'll put these in the comments so you can actually copy paste them. But here I'm going to demonstrate how to use it. So now we've created the pool, and then we should actually set up some options for it. So we can start with setting compression on it. attributes. And then redundant metadata. There we go. So there's lots of tuning options. So depending, of course, in this case, I'm giving the default ones that I think are valid for the system that I am using, but ultimately it's up to you when you have your own server configuration and virtual machine setup and stuff to decide what suits best. So let's see if we actually have a valid pool here now. Let me take a status on it. Not. So looks like we have a pool tank. Oh, looks okay. STB, it's online. And we also can take another view on it. So we can actually list the pool. And here we see we got a 3.98 usable space allocated, 552, blah blah blah. So healthy, it's online. So that looks good. And then if I want to get even more aggressive, I can actually pull out pretty much all the metadata there is. If one's interested. So now we're ready to actually go to and add the storage object. So here we go up to the data center. And we say we want to add ZFS. And then we should create an ID for it. I wonder if that was a good name. No. I think I have to change that name because it might conflict. To make the name unique. So just change that. Sorry, I didn't think through the name beforehand. And then you see it it finds the tank ZFS Pool, and I'm basically allowing all content. And then I want to actually restrict this to be used on, or I want it to be restricted to be used on only on one node. And then I want it enabled, and then I want it to use thin provisioning. Now thin, as I said, thin provisioning is that it only uses the space that it needs, not that it doesn't always allocate the full space physically. Which actually is a very good optimization. So now we see it takes a while to churn through, but as we see we've got it online here, and then you can see when you start adding VMs, then you can see the VMs come here, and then the containers come here, and then you have a summary overview. And it actually, the most important is to follow these, basically these two here. You can see that it's enabled and it's active. So you want those two to be yes. Anyway, we have a few more things to set. So let's say here, set up some caching information. So I'll use to set up the primary cache. And then we set up the secondary cache. Now I'm just going to show this because if you don't want the compression, or you want to set up other compression types, then you actually do have a direct command here also that you can actually just go and tune it. Not really sure that if you have already set LZ4 and you start using it and then you go change the compression type to something else, what happens, but at least in this case it's still safe since we don't have anything stored. And then we will set up the ARC, which is adaptive replacement cache, and this is an intelligent caching mechanism, and the idea is that it combines most recently used caching text with most frequently used caching algorithms, and then tries to optimize what is in memory and what needs to be put to disk and stuff. And you configure that by going into this file here, and then you can actually tune the size. The most important parameter is the max size, how much memory do you want to use it by default. And I usually use 8 gigs of RAM, but then of course this very much depends on what machine you have, how much memory you have. I usually set it to 8. So a little bit less than what the default was when the system gets created. And then you just need to reload the modules to get that setting to be used. Usually at this stage I reboot the machine just to see that the ZFS is remaining, and you know, it's all stable, that the iSCSI starts up and everything. So I'll be back when that's done. So as I said, probably not absolutely technically necessary to reboot, but I did it anyway. And then we have a operational iSCSI block resource. See, everything looks okay there. There's nothing on it. And we see that we have the storage, which is raw 4 terabytes, and then we have the ZFS system riding on top of that, and currently it's empty. The main thing is to look at the summary, and you can actually see the total space, and then we can actually see that it's enabled and active and so forth. So that looks good. And then there's a few statistical things that I'd like to show, which are actually quite useful. So that there's actually a lot of, you can pull out a lot of statistics for this system. So for example here you can get an ARC summary, and as you see you get lots of figures, but I mean they calls it a summary, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, you can get this, for example, here is I think the one of the main sections, which is the most useful. So then you can actually see the like memory usage, the parametrics. So you see that you have 8 gigs of, and then you can keep an eye on how this caching is getting used and stuff, and then you can retrim. And then there was another one where you can actually get arcstats directly from the device. So we do that one, and then you get also a raw list of all kinds of parameters that you can also use for various types of diagnosis and trimming the subsystem. So anyway, that was a summary of how to set up ZFS on top of the iSCSI storage subsystem. And as I said, I did fix this iSCSI authentication level like I did in the previous video, because I found out this it still wasn't working, the original mechanism that I used. So I replaced it with a script-based approach, and that is actually rock solid, both in between reboots and then like just static time when the server's running. It doesn't lose the authentication. So great. See you in the next one.